Hey friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we are doing some meal prep. I just got back from the store. I went to Costco and where else did I go? Home Goods. And I've got some simmer pots going, so the house smells really good. I like to use those when you cook something that is really strong smelling. Like I made salmon last night. So I had this cooking on the stovetop while the salmon was cooking, and I still kind of smell it today. So I have it cooking again on the stovetop. But also, like if you fry something or if you just do a lot of cooking, which I'm going to do a lot of cooking today, I have it going. And I usually do essential oil diffusers because when I was a kid, my mom would do this and the smell was so strong with the cloves, it would always give me a headache. But I'm playing around with different recipes, and then I'll sell the packages in the Etsy shop. But the one I have going today is oranges, a few cloves, some ginger, 2 cinnamon sticks, and some mulberries. And it smells really good. So I like this blend. So I'm going to try them all out first before I put them together. So I had to make room in the freezer, so that helped me figure out what I was going to make for dinner tonight. So my husband requested meatloaf. So we're going to prep a meatloaf. We're going to cook a whole chip cookie sheet of broccoli. And this is what I do. A lot of the time when I batch cook a whole bunch of roasted vegetables. And this is the other cookie sheet. We've got some cauliflower gnocchi on here from Trader Joe's and some broccoli. I do make my own gnocchi from the butternut squash, but I must have used it all up. I was trying to find it in the freezer and I couldn't find it. I'm going to season this with, this is mushrooms, oyster mushrooms I dehydrated, and pink salt. And I season a lot of the vegetables with this and anything that I'm cooking. One, because all the minerals of the salt, and then you get the benefits of the dried mushrooms, but also it gives you that umami flavor, which is nice. But I actually do it because mushrooms are medicinal. So any way I can kind of get them in. You know, when I make cacaos, lattes, I do the mushroom powder. It's pricey, but I had those mushrooms growing and I just dehydrated them, and that's what I've been using it for. So we're going to put the oven on. We're going to get this going. And then we're going to move to making, stuff is falling. We're going to move to make some fajitas. So I had defrosted some chicken cutlets. I have some onions that need to be used up. I'm also just going to start cooking the onions on the stove because I'll make French onion soup with some of the onions as well. Let me see what my container is. I like to use this enamel cast iron shallow container because it just works out really well. It holds the heat, and I just like how evenly it cooks. I do have ceramic saute pans that I have had for probably 10 years. I also have this enameled cast iron pan, but this has gotten beat, and it really is not non-stick. With the cast iron, I've, done it so many times, but anytime I try to make like a flatbread in it, it sticks. So I don't like to use that one that often. I will do I did spinach in it the other night and put it in the oven because I didn't feel like doing something on the cooktop. But I don't know, to season it, I've seasoned it a bunch of times in the way that you're supposed to, and it still stuff sticks to it. I used to make, what is that? The chickpea flatbread in it. Soka? I think that's what it is. I can't remember. But some of these onions are past their prime because I got lazy and I was just using the granulated onion. So I have some peppers that I had sliced and put in the freezer. I thought that I would just cut all these onions up and freeze them, but this is really not great. I don't like to use food that has mold on it because I have a mold sensitivity, and that tends to exasperate. But I'm hoping just to be able to cut it off and salvage what I can from it. So, like I said, I'm gonna make French onion soups. The way I make French onion soup is I caramelize the onions. I also have some mushrooms that I picked up today from Costco. And I do use organic when I can get it, so I got organic mushrooms, button mushrooms. These are organic onions. For the simmer pots, I am not buying organic citrus. So these actually was my organic oranges. I'm gonna keep this for myself. And I have a lemon and a lime that's organic, that's kind of going. So I'm gonna use those for mine to dehydrate. This was the lemons I dehydrated. And I picked up more lemon and a bag of lemon and a bag of oranges today from Costco that are conventionally grown, because this is not to be ingested, the simmer pot. It's just to provide an aroma to the home, so it doesn't need to be organic. And I'm not going to spend the money buying organic if I'm not going to eat it. But when I make tea blends, you know, when I do the bombs, I buy organic. So again, it's your preference, but if you want to save some money and you're not going to ingest it, you don't need to buy organic. I mean, I did think about, like, if I'm cooking it down and there's chemicals on it, is the chemical going to be released into the air? I do wash everything in vinegar before I use it, even organic produce, because I don't know, you know, who touched it, what else is on it. Because even though it's not been directly sprayed with pesticides, we live in a toxic world, and so there are pesticides in the air that we breathe and the air that the plants breathe. So I'm not naive to think that there's nothing on it. And I just feel like a vinegar wash is a little bit more potent than just washing things with water. So I might have to shut the camera off and come back to you because my eyes are already starting to burn. So I think we'll just pause for a second. Okay, so I think I'm done crying. I don't know if this happens to you, but I soak the onions in cold water before I cut them, and I still end up crying. So, the simmer pot is actually helping with the onion smell, because I like the smell of onions, but my body doesn't like it. So I wind up having, my eyes are burning, my nose is running. Would not be appealing on camera, so that's why let me come back to you guys. So now I'm gonna slice up some mushrooms, and actually I learned something new the other day watching another YouTuber, that if it's tight, that's a fresh mushroom, and if there's a gap between the gills and the stem, that's an older mushroom. I did not know that. I just like to make sure they're not slimy, and that I don't really have somewhere that I can buy them in bulk, loose, that I can pick through them. I can only really buy them in a package here. But it was interesting because they said that's why they don't buy the pre-sliced ones, because you don't know how fresh they are because they've already been sliced. I was like, huh, interesting, because most people probably buy the sliced ones thinking it saves them some time. I don't think I really buy the sliced ones either. I think I typically only buy them whole, depending on what I'm going to do with them. Occasionally I've bought them sliced, but for the most part I buy them whole because it's usually cheaper. And you can't usually get the sliced ones organic unless it's Trader Joe's and it's a really small package. And I don't go to Trader Joe's often because It's only 15 miles from my house, but it takes 45 minutes to an hour. Oh, the joys of living on Long Island. And even today, it's 12 miles to the Costco further east where everyone in the Hamptons shops. And I can get there quicker. There is no Trader Joe's or Whole Foods out there. There's only a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods West. And that is the one that everyone from Montauk to the town that Trader Joe's is in has to go to, because they won't put a Trader Joe's any further east because the traffic is so bad on the island and coming from the city, from Manhattan. So that tells you what it's like to live on Long Island. And even in the wintertime, going west, there's traffic. And surprisingly, today was Monday. And typically, before COVID, you could go east, off-season, on a Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, be fine. And then COVID happened, and all those people from Manhattan, you know who you are, never left. Or decided to spend more time out east during the off-season. But luckily, we had some snow yesterday, not a lot, I don't know, maybe a few inches. And it was really cold this morning when I left the house. It was quite chilly. But it wasn't bad. Like, Costco wasn't bad. And I was really happy about that because I stopped going to that Costco. Even though I like that Costco better than the one out west. One, it's closer. It's less. It's really not closer. It's the same mileage amount. But you can get to it quicker. But there's no Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. So then I usually go west. But it's just, the traffic is crazy. And they're doing construction always, so that makes it worse. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I was able to get out east quickly today. It wasn't too crowded at Costco. I got what I needed. They actually had the organic chicken sausage back in stock, but they haven't had the dairy-free one. They haven't had for like a year. So I got 2 packages of that. I got some frozen. I always get frozen broccoli and rice cauliflower. Those are just things I keep in the freezer. I wanted to get a bag of oranges, a bag of lemons. I got that. I got a bag of dried dates because I use that frequently. And what else did I pick up today? I don't remember. Again, I don't go that often. Oh, I got a bag of dried mango because this is what I'm thinking. I was hoping to get their apple chips. They used to have them. They don't have them anymore. Well, they didn't have them today. So I got a bag of dried mango because I thought that would smell really good in the simmer pots as well. I have some cranberries here. These are the mulberries I had. I bought these to do a tincture with them, but the tincture did not taste good. So I was like, oh, I have these, let me use them up. I did get these at Marshall's. I really wanted, again, I wasn't looking for the organic ones. I was just looking for the regular ones because we're not ingesting it. We're just using it to, as an aroma in the house to, deal with cooking smells, or, I don't know, you get the oil delivery and sometimes you can smell the oil. To me, I'm very sensitive to smells, so I always have a diffuser going. But this is great, the simmer pot, because you can actually add humidity back to the air in the wintertime. Now, that's not an issue that we have living on an island, and so I actually have to be careful that I'm not adding too much humidity back to the air because I don't want that, because anything over 50% mold grows. So, again, personal preference. Trying it out, because I always try out whatever I sell, I try it first to make sure that it's effective, it works, and it does what I want it to do. And so that was why I decided to do that. Plus, I knew I was going to cook fish, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll do that simmer pot and see how it works. And so this has been cooking. You can see it's a dark liquid. So it did not start out dark, but between the cloves, the cinnamon, and the mulberries, it turned dark. And it cooked pretty much, 4 hours, 5 hours yesterday, and then I turned it back on when I came home from the store today. So you can cook it for a long amount of time and it still will give off, a good smell. And there's no chemicals. in what I just put in there. And there's, like a candle that would have chemicals, or, a Febreze plug-in or something like that. That's all harmful chemicals that are toxins to your health. So I don't do any of that. I haven't done any of that, I don't even know, over 10 years in this house. But I know when I go to somebody's house that they have them plugged in, and I have to leave because I immediately get a headache. And I didn't get a headache from this, which is great. So that is an indication that it's not toxic, because I would have had a headache right away. So I think it's really important that we're mindful of the food we eat, the ingredients we put in our body, the ingredients we use in our homes, especially if you have pets, right? So like we have dogs. And so I don't use any toxic chemicals to clean my house. I don't use any toxic chemicals inside the house. My husband does use some, like he's got a kerosene heater right now going in the garage. I'm not going to go out there. I went out there very briefly. I opened the big garage door, but I did not stay out there. So I think you have to be aware of when your body is sending you messages, it's for a reason. It's trying to help you. It's trying to let you know that there's a problem. And considering we're kind of ignoring a lot of the messages, because in our society we're taught to think only with the brain, not with the body, and that it needs to be logical. And so we think the body is the enemy that is trying to make our lives difficult, right? Like I was in the store today, and because we have another storm moving in tomorrow on Wednesday, I was in pain. But I was like, laying on the couch is not going to help me, and I need to go food shopping. So I kind of need to get this done. But even as I'm walking through the store, like my hip was bothering me. It felt like it had gone out again. But I knew that moving was going to help me. And now I'm home. I ate lunch when I got home. I rested a little bit. I laid down and gave my body a break. And now my hip is fine. It's not bothering me. My head's bothering me a bit, probably because I'm thinking of all the things I need to do, right? But I think it's really important that we listen to our body, and we trust that it's not the enemy, and we trust that it's actually here to help us, to guide us. I think that that's a really important message. If that's the only thing that you got from today's video, other than, when I cook multiple meals at a time, to save myself time, energy, effort, and to have nutritious cooked food. So I have some kosher chicken breasts that I've defrosted that I will put in here. I got that organic chicken sausage from Costco that has minimal ingredients in it. I'll use that to roast with the gnocchi and the broccoli, and I'll put a homemade Italian dressing on it. I have some organic peppers that I had bought and froze. That's what's going to go in for these fajitas. We have our organic mushrooms. The French onion soup is just going to be these onions, some mushrooms, some thyme, and some organic beef broth that I canned. That's it. I made some gluten-free sourdough bread. I can eat my soup with that. But that's what it is. And so it's really important to remember that eating really simply, right? Growing what you can when you can. Doing your part to work with your body rather than against it. These are the messages that I talk about all the time. It's going back to basics. It's limiting technology. It's not eliminating it, it's limiting it. Being mindful of how much time you're spending on tech, right? I try to be as mindful as I can, but in the modern world, working virtually, you're on the computer. But the thing that was bothering me a lot was I had all these unread emails, and I was like, I have to get through these emails, and I was like, you don't have to get through these emails. If I get through them, I get through them. If I don't, I don't. The ones I have to get through, I'll get through. So I think it's important to remember that you don't have to do everything. You can choose the most important things. And one of them being to listen to the messages from your body and honor them. So on that note, I'm going to finish this up. I've got my onions almost caramelized. I'm going to finish cutting up my mushrooms. I'll take my peppers out. I'll slice up my chicken. And the only spices I'm going to put on this for the fajitas is just some chili powder, some oregano, some garlic powder, and some onion powder. And that's it. We have our homemade tomatillo salsa that I took you guys along on. We can use that. I have fermented curtido. And I have the almond flour tortillas. And that's it, right? Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. It doesn't have to be this elaborate meal. Like, I don't cook from elaborate recipes. I make things really simply because that's all I have the ability to do. And that's kind of how I want to eat. I don't want to have all these crazy ingredients that I never use. So I don't buy it. If I'm not going to use it, if it's for one recipe, I don't buy it because I'm like, if I don't like it, then I'm stuck with that ingredient. So I grow what I use a lot. We did grow onions this year. We did grow some mushrooms, but we didn't grow enough to have for the year. I mean, maybe I have for the summer. But we, again, it still helped. It helped with the food budget. It helped knowing I was growing it and that it was locally sourced and that it was more nutritious. It didn't get trucked across the country, right? It didn't come from another country. It came from my own backyard. So I think that's really cool if you can learn how to source more local. I have a friend who has a farm and they butcher their own chickens. They have their own eggs. They butcher, they have duck eggs. They get locally sourced duck from here on the island. They butcher their own pork. And they get cows from upstate. And so I buy my meat from there because I know my girlfriend. I know what she's feeding the animals. I see the animals when I go to the farm. I know they're living good lives. And maybe you don't have access to that. There's a lot of companies that you can buy from online that do pasture-raised animals. And yeah, you can't go to the farm and see how they're treated. But again, it's like the next best thing. You do the best that you can with what you have. Right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look the exact same way that I did it or someone else on YouTube did it. It's about you doing the best that you can in the circumstances that you're in, right? So people say it's really expensive to eat organic and pasture raised, and you either pay the price with eating the convenience food and have all the symptoms and all the illness and all of the issues, or you pay the price up front for the higher quality food and you take care of your body in a better way and Mother Nature, because you're actually working with her rather than against her, right? So if you're buying local, you're not having to support fossil fuels and extra pollution, and some countries the produce is sprayed with chemicals. You don't know. So I think it's really important to be educated as much as you can, to get reliable information from reliable sources. And unfortunately, that's hard to do sometimes online, especially now when a lot of things have been censored. I talk about going back to books and going back to basics. And I read, and I still read, so many books. I probably read 6 or 7 books a week. And they're all on various different topics. Some of them are like cozy mysteries because I need a brain break. Some of them are about trauma. Some of them are about energy medicine. Some are about herbalism or homesteading or, health issues, right? Like it meets the gamut of what I read. And I understand that everybody wants to do that, and I get that. But maybe you have a friend like me who reads everything. And maybe that's your reliable source. Maybe you follow somebody else and you trust the information they're giving you because you can research it and you can validate it. Or you can listen to your gut and say, you know what, that person actually, it sounds like they know what they're talking about. And I don't get that impression that they're trying to sell me something, right? Like, I don't sit on these videos and say, these are the affiliate links I have and these are the things to sell. Like, I tell you, like, yeah, I make my own products. You can check them out in the Etsy shop. I'm starting this new line of simmer pots. I think it's important. I think it's going to do something for people. I think it's a natural alternative, right? And so I think when you learn how to discern again and you remember what it's like to trust your gut, the universe will keep providing you the breadcrumbs and letting you know like you're on the right track. And I think that is where we need to pay attention. All right, so on that note, I think I've talked enough today. I'm gonna finish up the fajitas. I'm gonna divide half of these onions for the French onion soup. I'm just gonna put everything in Tupperware, glass Tupperwares. All right, so I'll put one for my soup, one for the fajitas. We've got our sheet pans going in the oven. I'll take the chicken sausage out when it gets a little closer to dinner time, because I think it's like 3 o'clock right now. We eat at like 5:30. Because again, sleep is really important, and that's one of the biggest things you can do to help yourself. 98 to 99% of people need 8 hours of sleep a night. Yeah, 98 to 99% need 8 hours of sleep. So if you are not sleeping 8 hours of sleep a night, you are doing yourself a disservice. So it's January still. Maybe you can set that intention that you're going to work on your sleep. You're going to prioritize your sleep, because the processes that are run from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. are integral to your health. And if they're not being run, they're being run later. And then the processes that would be run at that time are delayed and delayed and delayed. So when you wake up really groggy, you don't feel good, you feel really tired, like you didn't sleep at all, it's because the processes have been delayed and your body was not able to do what it needed to do at the right time. So it had to kind of figure out what it was going to do and what it wasn't going to do. And if you're eating really late, it has to digest food rather than run the processes. So that would be my second big tip to you, is, you know, being mindful of what you put in and on your body, but also being mindful of your sleep, your quality of sleep, what you're doing before bedtime. I take a bath and I read a book. That's what I do. If I don't take a bath, I take a shower. Like, it's just, that's what I do, and I go to bed. And I still wake up not feeling so great, because my body has to contend with so many different things still. And so I can still wake up and feel like, oh, I don't feel like I slept at all. Or if I have a migraine, I don't really sleep well. So I think it's really important to, again, learn how to communicate with your body, respect the messages it's sending you, and honor them. Till next time, friends.